One of the most talked about names in these stories is Errol Flynn. Publicly, he was the charming swashbuckler, the perfect leading man with a devilish smile. Privately, Flynn's reputation was far more dangerous. Hollywood insiders whispered that he treated parties like conquests, moving from one admirer to another with ease. His home was rumored to be a regular stop for secret gatherings where the rules of polite society simply didn't apply. People claimed that if Errol Flynn was on the guest list, the night would end in scandal. Whether exaggerated or not, his name became almost synonymous with excess, and even decades later, he remains one of the most infamous figures of Hollywood's wild side. Then there was Joan Crawford, a woman who carefully crafted her public image as strong, glamorous, and untouchable. But behind that powerful persona, rumors suggested a very different social life. Crawford was known to attend private Hollywood gatherings where powerful men and women mixed freely, far away from the studio bosses who tried to control her. Some claimed she used these parties as a way to gain influence and protect her career in an industry that was brutal to women. Whether these stories were acts of survival or pure indulgence depends on who you ask. But her name often appears in the same hushed conversations about Hollywood's secret nights. Clark Gable, the king of Hollywood, was another star whose off-screen reputation was almost as legendary as his on-screen roles. Married more than once and adored by millions, Gable was said to be a favorite guest at elite parties hosted by producers and studio executives. According to long-standing gossip, his charm didn't stop when the cameras did. People who claimed to have attended these gatherings said Gable moved through the room with confidence, knowing that his fame made him irresistible. The studios worked tirelessly to keep these stories quiet, but the whispers never fully disappeared. Marlene Dietrich was famous for her beauty, her accent, and her fearless attitude toward love and attraction. Unlike many stars of her era, Dietrich didn't seem particularly interested in hiding who she was, at least in private circles. Her parties were said to be legendary, filled with artists, writers, actors, and powerful figures from around the world. Stories suggest that these gatherings blurred every line society tried to draw at the time. Dietrich's name became linked with countless romances and encounters, making her a symbol of Hollywood freedom and rebellion, even as the studios tried to package her into something more conventional. Humphrey Bogart is often remembered as the tough, cynical hero of classic cinema, but early in his career, before his iconic marriage, his reputation was far less settled. According to old Hollywood gossip, Bogart was a regular presence at studio parties that stretched long into the night. These events were described as places where rising stars and established names mixed, often fueled by alcohol and ambition. While Bogart later became associated with loyalty and love, especially in the public eye, the early whispers painted him as someone who enjoyed Hollywood's secret social scene to the fullest. Jean Harlow, the original blonde bombshell, lived fast and tragically died young, but her brief time in Hollywood left a massive impression. Studios marketed her as playful and seductive, but rumors claimed her real life was even more intense. Insiders talked about late night gatherings where Harlow's laughter filled the room and where relationships shifted as quickly as the music. Some believed she was taken advantage of by powerful men, while others claimed she was fully aware of her influence. Her story remains one of the most debated, balancing between victimhood and agency in an unforgiving industry. Cary Grant is often remembered as the perfect gentleman, suave and sophisticated. But behind closed doors, Hollywood rumors suggested a far more complicated private life. Grant was said to attend exclusive parties where appearances didn't matter and experimentation was common. Friends and biographers have hinted that these gatherings allowed him to explore parts of himself that the studios and the public would never have accepted at the time. While nothing was ever openly confirmed, his name frequently appears in discussions about Hollywood's hidden social circles. Ava Gardner's fiery personality was no secret, and neither was her appetite for life. Known for her intense relationships and explosive romances, Gardner was said to be a regular guest at secret Hollywood parties where emotions ran high and rules were few. She reportedly clashed with studio executives who tried to control her behavior, insisting on living life on her own terms. The stories surrounding Gardner often paint her as someone who embraced desire openly, regardless of how it affected her reputation. Tyrone Power was another heartthrob whose image was carefully protected by the studios. Fans saw him as the perfect romantic hero, but rumors told a different story. According to Hollywood insiders, Power attended private gatherings where stars could finally drop their carefully constructed personas. These parties were described as places of freedom, but also of risk, where one wrong move could destroy a career. Power's name became linked with these events, adding to the mystery surrounding his true private life. Finally, there's Frank Sinatra, whose connection to Hollywood's elite social scene is almost legendary. Sinatra moved easily between worlds, from movie studios to music stages to exclusive parties attended by politicians, actors, and powerful figures. Stories of his late night adventures became part of his myth, painting him as a man who lived intensely and without apology. Whether every rumor was true hardly mattered, because his larger and life personality made them believable to the public. What ties all these stories together isn't just scandal, but the system that allowed it to exist. Classic Hollywood was built on control and illusion. Studios owned stars. Newspapers cooperated to hide damaging information, and careers depended on silence. Secret parties became a release valve, a place where the pressure could explode without reaching the public. For some stars, these gatherings were about pleasure. For others, they were about survival, power, and negotiation in a ruthless industry. It's important to remember that many of these stories come from second-hand accounts, memoirs written decades later, and gossip columns that thrived on exaggeration. Some stars may have been unfairly labeled, while others likely enjoyed the reputation. The truth probably lies somewhere in between, shaped by fear, desire, and the strange world Hollywood created. Today, we look back at classic Hollywood with nostalgia, but these stories remind us that the golden age was never as innocent as it appeared. Behind the polished smiles and scripted romances were real people, living complicated lives in a system that demanded perfection while offering temptation